Well, for some, the holiday season can be full of anxiety and some stress. Here with some advice to help manage everything is Nkechi Njaka. She's a neuroscientist and mindfulness expert. First, can you tell us what is mindfulness?
I'd be happy to. Hello, everyone. My name is Nkechi, and mindfulness is being in the present moment. It is really just existing in whatever is currently happening, and it is grounded in the moment as it's occurring, moment after moment.
And is there any difference between mindfulness and meditation?
Absolutely. So mindfulness is something that we can practice in everyday life. It can be the way that we interact with one another. We can practice mindfulness by just being in our mundane of activities like the dishes or cooking or cleaning or running or swimming, anything really. As long as we're present with that activity, that is a practice of mindfulness. And meditation, there's a whole host of different types of meditation, like there's guided imagery and there's transcendental meditation, and there's Vipassana, and there's Zen, and mindfulness is just one type of meditation. And for a mindfulness meditation, you're really just practicing mindfulness for a period of time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you want to practice.
Okay, and mindfulness and the brain, how are they connected?
So this is quite a complicated question, and I'll try to be succinct with my answer. So the research that I did as a neuroscientist looked at how mindfulness can support different clinical populations. So we were looking at chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and addiction. And when we use mindfulness, we noticed that stress was a component. And so mindfulness actually helps us to reduce stress. And then for the more neuroanatomy, it actually changes our neural configuration. So the research suggests that meditation can be an adjunct to therapy for those clinical populations I already described, but it cultivates optimal health in our neurobiology, and it helps to also elongate our ability to be with what's present. So it's very helpful for our health.
You made that explanation very simple for us to understand. Thank you for that. What would you say happens to our brain when we practice mindfulness?
So we're working with neuroplasticity. So again, this is very high level. And so when we think of any behavior that we do or any pattern that we create neural networks that sort of allow them to become patterns. So when we work with a new behavior, a new pattern, and usually with mindfulness, that would be introduced later in life, and that can help be a new pattern. It changes our brain structure, which then changes our behavior.
And as I mentioned at the top, this can be a tough time for people. How can mindfulness help manage stress or anxiety during this holiday season?
It is a really stressful time for people for so many reasons: travel, getting together with family. Also, we're in a pandemic. And so there's many unknowns and uncertainty and things that can come up. One of the ways that mindfulness can help is reducing our stress. So when we are present with the moment, it's really, really important that staying with the moment, it's really important to understand that by staying in the moment, we're not as fixated with what has already happened, and we're not as obsessed with what may or may not happen. So those are both future and past experiences. So when we're present, we're here with what's now. And most of our stress comes from the things that exist in the past or in the future. So either we're replaying things that have already happened that were unpleasant, or we are worried about something that may or may not happen. And so when we are focused on the present moment, we're really able to leave those things in those other spaces. And what mindfulness can offer us is an opening of spaciousness in our body. So if we think about what we feel like when we have stress, it might feel really constricted in our chest or in our stomach, or even just in our neck and shoulders, maybe in our jaw. When we breathe into those spaces with mindfulness, with presence, with breath, we actually create more space in our body, which is actually the antithesis of stress.
And right now, of course, at the present time, we're dealing with the pandemic. How much has the pandemic contributed to the mental health crisis?
I think largely, deeply, greatly. I think that it was something that I was thinking about at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, wow, I actually think that this is not only a health crisis, but it's a mental health crisis just because of the isolation and the grief that we were anticipating experience and then experienced loss of home or job or people we love. And so stress is actually, or grief is a very large stressor in everyone's life. It's part of being human, and without proper tools to manage that or to be in better relationship with that, it can really wreak havoc on our health.
Mm-hmm. How often and maybe how long do you recommend one to meditate?
This is a fun question because I think that it varies from person to person, and there's nothing that I can prescribe for anyone other than to attempt to be in practice. I invite people to be in practice, and that could be as simple as just noticing your breath in a moment, just feeling the inhale and the exhale as you take breath. Or you can take a longer practice and sit for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on what you have time for and what's available to you and what also feels possible and manageable.
And you're also a choreographer. Does moving our bodies play a role in reducing anxiety and stress?
Oh my gosh, it does. And I encourage, movement in general, but I definitely, as a dancer and a lover of dance, I encourage people to dance almost as if no one's watching them, kind of that, authentic expression of oneself. I really think it's medicine. What happens when we move our bodies is we're able to release energy from our body. So again, if we think of how we feel when we're stressed, it's kind of that constraint feeling in our body. But if we're moving, we're able to release that and let that into our space, and it can kind of dissolve, dissipate, create spaciousness in our body.
Kind of a bit of freedom, it sounds like.
So much freedom, so much liberation, so much self-expression, yes.
Any other advice you can give to our viewers on how to deal with stress and anxiety?
My biggest advice would be just to find moments where you can find a stillness, to really listen to your breath, to be with your breath, even if it's just 3 breaths. I also find that play can be a really fun and also stress reducing activity. So something that you might have enjoyed as a kid is a great place to start. If you're like, what do I enjoy? That's a good place to start. But even just thinking of when you feel free is a great place to be with mindfulness. It's play, being in the moment, and really, finding presence.
Yeah, so much good advice during this holiday season when so many people are really having a tough time. So thank you so much for this. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.